Hello there. It's Jennifer Huff, and this is the Thriving Life Podcast. I just wanted to welcome you, whether you're here for the first time or the millionth time. We so appreciate you being here today for a topic that's near and dear to my heart, which is all about your superpowers, your ability to kind of transcend linear thinking, do X, get Y, three-dimensional, normalcy. I call it surviving better. It's like you're not just surviving, you're doing all the things, so you're surviving better. It's like, I did very well in my first marriage. We were surviving really, really, really well. But I knew there was something more. It's not his fault. I knew there was something more. Do you ever get that feeling where you know there's something more about life? Do you ever get that feeling where you feel like you can, it's just like right on the edge of the cliff or right at the tip of your tongue, and that life could be far more meaningful and fulfilling. And given what you already know, you can only get so far. And so today is all about not just about what you know, but what you've embodied, who you've become, because the life that you have is a direct result of who you've become to date. You are a frequency match for exactly who you've become. So everything that you see with your bank account, with who you hang out with where your life is headed, with the stuff that's going on in your life and the projects that are working and not working and the way they work and don't work is a direct result. It is a reflection. It is information about the skill sets you've embodied and who you've become, because life will not give you what you're not prepared for, right? Because life loves you. And since life loves you, you only get what you're prepared for, so you don't crash and burn. So what's the glass ceiling? The glass ceiling is the superpowers you have that allow you to do the what's next. And the superpowers come from actually just becoming more of yourself. We're going to talk about what that means today, how you do that, what's involved, so that you actually become magnetic for that thing that you imagine, that sense of urgency you're feeling inside, that's that next level of fulfillment and meaning. How do you actually do that? How do you actually next level yourself so you're a living magnet for what you imagine is possible? That's what we're going to answer today. Now, of course, the podcast is only 30 minutes, but upcoming, we have every Saturday program coming up. A little pause for station identification. We have a little program coming up called Innate Abilities 2.0. That little program is not only how to activate, which is what we're going to do today. We're going to activate what it's like to embody your superpowers to the next level. But there are 3 steps always. And the second step is to calibrate to them. In other words, to actually get what it's like and let your body feel into what it's like using certain tools. That's the second step of making your becoming your new normal. So what we want to do is we want to make your next level your new normal. And in innate abilities at the 3rd level, what we're doing is we are actually getting you to embody it. So you're now at a new default level of magnetics. Not only that, and your aim ought to be, because this is my aim for my life, I'm all about efficiency and next leveling. Not for the sake of next leveling, but because it adds meaning and fulfillment to my life, right? Imagine being able to embody the way you embody your next level. So in other words, you become so good at this that your ability to become whatever, to make that leap into your next becoming, you're so practiced at it that you're no longer afraid to become all of who you are. As life shifts, you shift with it and you flourish no matter where life heads. Wouldn't that be cool? So that's the goal. That's not the goal in the next 25 minutes. That's the goal of innate abilities. So, yeah. So onward and upward. What are we doing? How do we go here? What is it to actually quantum leap? What is it to actually um, just get to your next level of badassery, right? What is it to actually, like, the official title of today is, making your superpowers your new normal. Making your superpowers your new normal. So, what is it to make your superpowers your new normal? What is it to go and unlock your innate intelligence? What does that mean? So, let's talk about that first so we can kind of be on the same page. Most people run around with the goal of unlocking their super intelligence or uh, getting connected to their, you know, greater consciousness or the part of them that's connected to all that is. Most people walk around thinking like once it's done, it's done. Like once I connect to my innate intelligence, my greater wisdom. And by the way, I'm talking to all of you. I don't care if you're the CEO of a company, if you are a medical doctor. I work with a lot of medical doctors. If you're a therapist, work with a lot of therapists and lawyers. I don't care where you fall into, like where you are in that realm, or whether you're at home with your kids. Okay? It doesn't matter. This life is a life that's constantly expanding. That's why you keep reaching new glass ceilings. It's like, oh, life was working so well 15 years ago, and I keep applying the same abilities to now. But you can't use the same abilities from 15 years ago right now, because right now the speed of change is way faster. One. Two, so this is what's blocking most people. One is the speed of change is too fast for the old abilities that you have. They won't work. The old tools will not, the old metaphysical tools, the old consciousness tools, the old, ways you used to meditate. These are different times. It doesn't work. Secondly, it takes too long. Third, okay, let's see if we can really nail this so you guys can get it. In times of great change where more becomes possible, which most certainly is right now, imagine that there's more contrast than ever, and there are more problems, and also because of social media and phones and all the things, you also see more of the problems than we did 20 years ago because it's on every platform, whether the problems you see are true or not. Then what happens is you have this life where you're navigating people who are witnessing what's going on and are having a hard time coping with it. So there's a little bit more agitation and frustration around you in the world. And the ways to flourish have also changed. The monetary system is changing. Economics is changing. The polarity between have and have not is changing. So much is changing. There's a lot changing, right? And because so much is changing, that means that 15 years ago or 10 or 5 years ago, not only is what's possible different, but the way you get to what's possible is different. Last but not least, second last but not least, everything you've ever asked for is already waiting in the field. You actually cannot have a problem or an issue or a frustration without multiple millions of solutions existing to balance the equation of the universe. Literally, if the universe is at the core of our atomic structure, holographically speaking, and we are also in the universe, which some are coming to that conclusion when you study quantum physics. Entanglement would say that the solutions have to exist not as a result of the problem, but the solution has to exist simultaneously to the problem. So, and the solution exists in the field. If it hasn't been brought through into 3D, in other words, if you don't see it in front of your face and it hasn't come to fruition as something you can touch or smell or taste, then it's still waiting at the frequency of who you haven't become yet. So all of the solutions, who you haven't become, the skills you haven't embodied in order to contain that possibility, the things you haven't learned in order to contain that future, the people you haven't met yet because maybe they haven't become yet, or because they are in their evolution. There are all sorts of reasons why we feel urgent and on the edge of the cliff. But understand that not only does what's possible shift, but the skills to be able to embody what's possible, the skills to be able to embody who you have to become to experience what's possible, the skills involved in fully flourishing in an ever-changing world also evolve. It all evolves. So the skills you used to have become a little less effective. So if you're not changing and learning and growing, it's not the purpose of life, as we talked about yesterday in a masterclass. The purpose of life is not to change and grow and learn. That's the result of your pursuit of more fulfillment and meaning in your life. Learning is the result of the pursuit of having a richer life. It is not the purpose. So let's go from there, because remember, the purpose of today, the actual topic, is about unlocking your innate intelligence, right? It's really going to that place of innate intelligence. So imagine that your innate intelligence, based on where society is, let's really paint the picture. So society in the 30s was getting industrialized. We were standardizing education. It was sort of like, everyone was very busy, trying to make all the things that people could dream up, because all the buildings and the cogs and all this stuff was being created, along with the systems to be able to support, civilization to be able to work in a world like that. And then we kind of coasted for a while. And then computers were invented, right? So you had to develop skills. You had to understand how a computer thinks. That's why a lot of 80-year-olds, like my dad, he never embodied the operating system of how a computer works or how a cell phone works. So it frustrates the living daylights out of him. It's a beingness shift to understand how our tech works. Anyone right now that's listening to me who is under 50, it's just a language to you. It's like a part of you. It's just easy peasy pumpkin squeezy. Totally natural. Right? So that's a beingness shift. And now what we're coming into, that we've had, because we've had computers and we went into this, online age, and this you can call anyone from anywhere in the world age. And most certainly expansiveness could exponentiate. There's something called Moore's law that said that everything multiplies every 7 years, exponentiates every 7 years. And the funny thing is, with AI and quantum computing and all that kind of stuff, it's going to be able to exponentiate much more. Like Moore's law is going to become defunct because it's going to happen much faster. Because AI and AGI and certainly quantum computing is going to give us answers to the problems in the world that we never thought were possible. It's going to be able to access resources that many human beings have, but to synthesize it and then lay out all sorts of results. Could be for the monetary system, most certainly, please, for the environment. Our imaginations will be unlimited. It will only be limited by the quality of the question that you ask, right? Pretty cool. So imagine now we're in another kind of era. As of July 4th until yesterday, or no, Monday, the 7th, there was a little shift because millions of people were asking about, then it's the birthday of the United States. Imagine of the Constitution of it, at least, the Declaration. Many people had to reorient themselves to the existence of the United States, millions of people, which when you're reorienting yourself to the place that you're from or the place that you relate to from one perspective, and now we're having to reorient ourselves to another perspective, that equates to a massive global era shift. It was already happening. You could already feel it, I know. When we shift eras, the abilities that you need also shift to be able to navigate. You plug into the world differently. The skill sets are going to be different. And if we really want to flourish, then it's not just about being able to have really good skill sets according to a university or according to the 10-step process that someone wrote in a blog. Now we're talking about not only accessing your consciousness. That's not that hard, honestly. We're talking about understanding that our consciousness and the collective consciousness and the quantum field evolves with our evolutions. So you're connected to that field. That's great. But most people think once they're connected, it's like, okay, I'm good. Accomplished. Check. No, that's why continuing to understand how consciousness works matters so much. So this, what I'm about to say, is the crux of our conversation today. And I'm going to give you a little story about it. Let me ask you a question first. Have you ever thought, have you ever imagined, have you ever had an issue with that you keep feeling the sense of urgency, but it won't go away? Like you've had it for a while now. And have you had this feeling like the thing that I talked about earlier, that the tools that you used to use don't work anymore? Or they're not working as well as you, it's like you're not keeping up the momentum, or you're not feeling like, you're having momentum in certain areas of life where everything's working like you maybe have felt in the past. Have you had that? Even in these times of great change, have you noticed that you can get pulled out a little bit more easily? And that when you're in the flow, you're in the flow. But man, if you listen to even a little bit of news, you're like, whoosh. Or if you listen to anyone gossip about what's going on in the world, you're like, whoosh, you're just right out of your flow. And it takes a while to get back in. Has this been happening to you? So I'd love to hear. You can put it in the comments. So this is for you, if you're feeling that sense of urgency. Connecting to your higher wisdom is just the beginning of the game. Because what happens when you're connected actually matters more. And most people think, well, I'm just going to get all these answers from my greater wisdom, as though your greater wisdom is separate from you. And executives and CEOs, this is for you. Leaders, people who own their own business, listen to me. You just getting ideas from your greater consciousness is the booby prize of all booby prizes. Because first of all, you've separated your higher wisdom from you. It's not separate. I'm going to present something that matters so deeply for me. And that is that from the point of view of who you are in this three-dimensional holographic world, this world where the quantum particles of us basically, and the waveforms and the photons, they all, basically gathered together. I mean, it's the oddest thing when you think about it. They gathered together in an agreement to come into a much more dense state to create a world. And then the essence of you, the quantum particles of you, actually co-conspired. I mean, it doesn't work that way, but they followed the intent of your soul, and your soul created the physical body within the greater field of you. I mean, that's crazy stuff, right? Now imagine when I'm working with clients, my awareness is that you have this consciousness that houses your body. Your body doesn't house your consciousness. Your consciousness houses your body. So your greater wisdom isn't separate from you. It literally created your body. I mean, just try that one on for a while. The next time you think you're going to ask your greater consciousness that's out there somewhere. No, it literally, it's like all around you, and its agreements actually intended you into 3 dimensions. Oh my gosh. So I say this to you because when I started to see all of this as a holographic seer, come economist, I don't know how that happened, but as I started to see that, I realized that as we're present here in this reality in 3D, and because we're creator consciousness, all of our creator bigger selves are interacting with each other, and we're coming up with all sorts of cool stuff. But then what happens in consciousness, this is the important part, what happens in consciousness is just like we're creating new, Samsungs and iPhones and quantum computers and blockchains and all this stuff. We're constantly evolving. We used to have landlines, and before then we had tin cans, right? As we're constantly evolving, it's what consciousness does in its field is it also evolves your abilities. It evolves your metaphysical skill sets. It evolves the way you plug into the world so that you, like personality traits and certain, let's say, ways of being, like you would have to change. Right now, what we're having to change is that things can be done a lot faster, and that the way of being able to ask really great questions, like your imagination of being able to ask really great questions, is the only thing that limits what's possible right now. I spent an hour yesterday on the phone with someone looking at a really cool health technology that I use for my health, and they've integrated it with AI, and it's giving me, oh my God, it was so much work to try to understand this thing. And now all of a sudden it has AI, and I don't need to work because all I do is ask the question and it gives it to me right away. It's incredible, actually. And with clients, like to be able to evolve their health based on being able to accurately, give them answers instead of working real. I mean, it is just amazing. But you see, I have to change my glass ceiling of that it can't come that fast, which I have because I get excited about that stuff, right? So I want to share with you that it is possible to shift because even when we have someone is sharing about their health, even when they have a glass ceiling, they think like they're limited by their genetics. You have to understand that if you think you're limited by genetics, consciousness has already changed a way for you to transcend genetics. In fact, we're talking about that and embodying that in the innate abilities class. When I realized for myself that I could transcend my genetics, that I didn't have to live out the issues that my parents had, that I could literally live an entirely different way in a different paradigm and make a jump to a new way of being. My interest was no longer in how to manage my life, which is surviving better, being conscious of what might happen. My interest was to evolve with the evolutions that consciousness is consistently creating, including the ability to transcend genetics, including the ability to come into the wealth consciousness that currently has more billionaires who are under 35 years old than ever in our per capita than ever in our history. Millionaires is beyond the beyond in their 20s. That's even taking into account how much more money there is. That's because they're plugged into the operating system of how it works. And anyone can do that. So I'm asking you, okay, I'm asking you to change your thinking today. I'm asking you to stop just wanting to be connected to your greater consciousness. Your greater consciousness, your greater wisdom actually created your physical body. You're already connected to it. The thriving or the way to flourish or the way to be brilliant is to actually open the possibility that the changes in how you need to be and the skill sets that are needed to be that, to actually get to your next level are already done. The question is not how do I connect to my greater consciousness so that I can get answers. The question is, how do I be so integrated with my greater consciousness that my way of being consistently evolves without me hardly being anywhere involved in that? That my way of plugging into it's like you're being reborn every time there are major shifts, and you just kind of like when a child is born now, they can just use an iPhone. You don't even have to explain it to them, they just get it, right? So imagine that without getting a new body, you kept being reborn into the era shifts, and that your beingness would shift with the shifts. That'd be cool, right? You'd be in a constant state of flourishing. I just want you to consider that. I saw this many years ago, and that's the program Innate Abilities. That's what we're teaching. That's why it's so important to me that everybody I know within arm's reach and that you guys all just get your little butt over there. It's going to change not only your life right now. That's not what this program is about. This program is about changing the way you relate to life for the rest of your life. it will change the entire, next 30 years for you. So today, for today, consider everything you need is already done. Your ability to actually be available to the evolutions in the way you be, not to answers, so that God can tell you what to do, so that you be safe and in control. We're not interested in that around here. If you are interested in that, you are in the wrong place, because that would be the booby prize, just getting answers. That's easy. What if you could go beyond that? And I ask you to do this today because the greatest thing we can do is ask better questions and seek what actually causes us to live in overflow. Even if you got the answer and you didn't embody and knew you were at a glass ceiling, which, by the way, this is a perfect example of people who win the lottery and then all the money goes away. So they get given a ton of money, but they don't know how to relate to money or how to deal with money or how to have a relationship with money. And so they're given, some kind of windfall. And then basically they end up right back in the amount of debt they were, within a few years. That's because a beingness shift didn't happen. So imagine being able to not only get the ideas, but that your glass ceiling of your entire beingness and the skill sets that come with it could shift so that you can contain the possibility you've birthed. Not only can you contain it, but it will birth the next one, and you have every confidence and no doubt that you're also headed for the next one. So if you're just working hard and creating stuff but not doing your personal work or understanding innate abilities or embodying them, then life just becomes work hard, work hard, work hard, see how much you can get done. Let's see if I can survive this life. And then, it's just hard. And it doesn't need to be. You've seen people for whom life isn't hard. So I will give you a final word, a final sentence. It's my favorite sentence. To be curious on the adventure and excited towards change is to be ready to flourish through these times of great evolution. Let me say it again. To be curious on the adventure and actually thrilled by change is to be ready for the conversation about your superpowers. And today, I'm opening the door for you towards what it takes to actually live a flourishing, thriving life, the name of our podcast, rather than simply just getting answers from your higher levels and not being able to sustain an expansive life going forward. So I hope this gave you some new information today. I hope it was helpful. I hope to see many of you in Innate Abilities. Remember, we're every Friday. We're going to activate some juicy stuff next week. It's going to be so fun. Every Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure you like us and you follow us. It really helps us. And share this with your friends. If they feel really stuck and they don't really understand how it works and they're trying really hard at finding fulfillment and meaning, and this kind of switched your mind today, then share it with someone else. And I want to thank you guys all for being here. Until next time.